pulling is going to be our foundation for learning to handstand. What a heel pull is initially we see it, and we see it as a balancing drill because we are goal orientated by nature. And because we see people doing this movement that looks like they're then achieving balance from it, we look at it and go, this must be a balancing drill. That's the wrong way to look at a heel pull. With the heel pulls, balance is the consequence of performing the movement correctly. Now, going through the other stuff that you've been sent, you should know by now that these fellows here are going to act as some level of a big toe, and this is going to be a calf muscle. Now, to put these things together is much easier said than done, and what heel pulls are, it's teaching you to actually how to have this as a big toe and how to use this as a calf muscle. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to be nice and close towards the wall, and we are going to go into what they call in the acrobatic world, the cambered grip. So I have all the way through the medial line of my hand, and I'm pulling my fingertips in towards my pad. Now, the severity of that kink is completely individual to the person, and there is no right or wrong. Personally, I sit quite heavy in mine. I see people sit very shallowly in it, and there's no right or wrong, just whatever feels most natural for you. What we do want to avoid though is the cup hand. Now, if someone's already learned to handstand, the cup hand isn't necessarily wrong, but I also know many people who have trained more than just handstands, and if they train some level of pulling strength as well, the cup hand often leads to severe elbow tendonitis because we are taking the forearm out of the equation here. So by driving the weight through the medial line of the hand and having the kink in the fingertips, not only do we have access to our calf muscle, but our calf muscle can apply leverage to the big toe. So we enter the wall, closer to the wall than we think we need to be. We are then a rigid body type. We don't necessarily have to have rock solid abs, a tense butt and pointed toes, but there needs to be a degree of tension within the body, because if there's no tension, the drill won't work so effectively. We're then going to go into our cambered grip. We're going to drive as much weight through the medial line of the hand as possible, and then we're going to try attempt a first knuckle raise push-up. Now, while we do that pressure there, we're also trying to lift the pads away from the floor. So effectively, we're trying to get in towards this position here. But there is absolutely no way that the hands will do that because we're going to have our body weight bearing down on top of the hands. And if we have that with a degree of tension, what this results in is the body lifting away from the wall, and then you relax to return. So the reason that we want to think of more doing this than just pressing the fingers into the floor, personally, I weigh 81 kilos. If I'm trying to move 81 kilos like this is nowhere near enough. That's why we need the full connection from the forearm in towards the fingertips. Now again, because we are goal orientated by nature, we want to come away from the wall because that is the goal, that seems to be the apparent goal here, which it 100% isn't. Now, if I manage to come away from the wall by stepping my feet off, by jumping with the hips, by swinging my shoulders, by leveraging with the head, effectively I am robbing myself of the thing that this drill is designed to do, and thus robbing me of my capacity to learn to create leverage with the hands. If I cannot create leverage within the hands, every other balancing drill is redundant because I won't understand how to adjust it, because we need to learn how to influence the center of mass from the base of support. So we're kicking up heel to wall, weight through the medial line of the hands to feel the forearms working, kinking the fingertips in towards the floor. I'm tall enough in the shoulders that there's no flop within them, and I'm bracing the body with however that feels best for me. So if tight glutes feel good, tense the glutes. If tight abs feel good, tense the abs. If tight quads feel good, whatever means that I have a degree of tension within the body. Then I'm trying to lift the heels of the hands as I drive the fingertips in towards the floor, to lift the heels of the feet away from the wall, and then returning. I dig fingertips in towards the floor to try to lift the heels of the hands so the heels of the feet come away from the wall, and return. Never do I step, jump, move, hips, wave, any of those things. If I'm doing any of those things, I won't be achieving the goal here, which is how to actually create leverage through that line of my hand. Common problems. We come away from the wall and we're just collapsing down into the floor. We come away from the wall for a split second and fall back in, so there is absolutely no hang time. And what this comes down to is a level of awareness and sensitivity. Now, there is never not pressure in the hands, and it's why cues like the sweet spot are fucking bollocks. There is only center of mass above base of support, and then there's more and less resistance, but there is never a just magic spot where you can turn off. If you ever turn off your hands, you will fall instantly. Much like if I cut your Achilles tendons when you're standing, it's done. So, developing sensitivity is a hard one. If we've come away from the wall and come back too prematurely, we haven't pushed enough at the relevant time. If we come away from the wall and fall to the floor, we've pushed too much at a certain point in time. And we want to be aware of these things. So the amount of pressure required to keep the feet away from the wall without coming to the floor changes on an exponential scale. So if I'm having to drive my fingertips in very aggressively to come initially away from the wall, 1 centimeter further away with the feet is now becoming substantially easier. Another centimeter, substantially easier. Another centimeter, keep that same pressure and you will fall. So it's being aware of learning the sensitivity, because there is no cheat code for it. It's just you developing that as a skill in itself.